Staying off the freeway, they are the closest to the 210, the Foothill Freeway, and the 110, the Arroyo Grande, the oldest freeway in Southern California, if you want to look that up for history keeping sakes. But the bottom line is that this individual is driving at a very high rate of speed through lights, and I do not see any units behind him or her. We don't even know who is being pursued at this time and why they were being pursued in the first place. But the bottom line is this is a very dangerous situation on a holiday evening here in Southern California.
And Rick, part of the reason, as you know, that they often go to that tracking mode is that they hope that the driver will slow down if they don't have a bunch of black and whites behind them.
But they're not. He or she isn't, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be working that way. They just now have a lot better chance of potentially getting away.
Yeah, exactly. And I always throw out statistics, but our officers, our sheriff's deputies are so good and dialed in trying to bring these incidents to an end here as that car took a hard right there. We'll see what happens. 18%, at least in the Los Angeles area, 18% do get away, the vast majority on motorcycles, into parking structures and what have you. But right now, they're tracking this from the air. They are still on the ground. There's a lot of intel that's going on, and they're going to try to bring this individual to a safe stop to get him or her off the road.
I'm wondering, though, with that 18% figure that you say get away, do they get caught for something else in the long run?
They don't know their neighborhood. They don't know that neighborhood. So you know how,
gated community,
how
maybe?
We do say that sometimes they go into areas where they're familiar with. Not here at all, because so clearly they encountered a situation where they had to do a U-turn, and that's what's happening on this neighborhood. And it's Sunset Ridge in Pasadena there, and that's an area that has a lot of ins and outs with the 210 freeway, as I said, with the 110, the Arroyo, and a lot of side streets as well. There's a unit right there.
Yep, but that's the first one that we saw.
Yeah, and slowing down. Let's see what happens. It's turning right. And again, why they do this, why they are handling themselves this way, it's all about what they're feeling at this moment and trying to get away if they want to, if they haven't got into their mindset to give up. But I do not think that this individual knows the neighborhood very well, just based upon his or her driving.
Right, and as that vehicle drove back, you really did get a sense of the tracking mode, that there weren't a bunch of black and whites behind him or her. Last night at 10 o'clock, we were all together. If you may have been watching us live at 10 o'clock last night, where there was like 20 cars behind a vehicle that was driving like 4 or 5 feet at a time. In that situation, you said this person has no chance of getting away. The few times we have seen, Rick, drivers get away, it usually is when there's tracking mode, when there's a long distance, when they're going fast, when there isn't cruisers right behind them, and they sometimes, as you said, go into parking structures or get into homes or other things, and then they're not able to find them. And
this driver clearly is still agitated. I'm not sure if he or she is looking in their rearview mirror to see if there are any units behind them. But bottom line, this driver, this individual being pursued by officers, again, we don't have a lot of information at all on how this started, is okay.
Stopping, backing up.
Or we turning around?
If that is backing the same vehicle, we'll see what happens here. Yep, it is. It is. Yeah, it is. He doesn't know, or she does not know this area at all. And I say a lot, Alex and Christine, that a lot of these individuals will try to track back down to neighborhoods that they're familiar with, just like you and me, into the neighborhoods where you know where the alley is, you know the back streets and what have you, so that they can perhaps, in their mindset, get away. But this is not the case.
I mean, you look at the size of some of these homes. This is a nice neighborhood. It seemed like at one of the points he went into a gated community, which is why he couldn't get past the gate and had to make a U-turn. This other spot seemed to be another gate. These are big houses that probably don't see a lot of this sort of thing in this neighborhood all that often. The driver does not seem to be that familiar with this neighborhood. Seem to be driving kind of aimlessly in circles.
Skyfox trying to track this. Again, it's a dark-colored, tinted windows sedan, 4 doors that's being pursued right now. and we'll see. And it looks like at this point there's a lot of uncertainty in the mindset of the individual that is being pursued. And maybe they're getting ready for what we call a foot bail, where they jump out.
We don't see the night sun either.
And their lights are off, too, in the vehicle.
Yeah, and that's just that vehicle right there is just another innocent bystander that's coming across traffic there here on the streets that you see above. So bottom line is, at this point, they're trying to do whatever they can to bail. I think that they're trying to do that foot bail.
With the lights off, that could be. As you see these other motorists, though, and you see them going at a slower speed, the fear factor plays into this whole pursuit here as to whether this person is going to try to carjack somebody if they run out of gas. What lengths will they go to escape? And what about going into the property of these homes here? That's scary.
No question. Bottom line, though, if that vehicle that individual is driving is fueled up, and it looks like it's in good shape at this point, they're going to stay there. They're going to stay there. But we are hearing now that that suspect is exiting his or her vehicle, and we're going to see what happens. And we are not seeing any ground units, at least from our shot from up in Skyfox. No night sun, no illumination from a police helicopter at this time.
So we should tell everybody, if you see this commotion, you hear this outside your doorway, lock your doors.
There he is.
We can see the person standing outside of the car, perhaps getting back in their car.
And they're off. There they go. Kind of what we saw yesterday with that cat and mouse. There they go.
Cars there. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that there were some other vehicles there with doing their own situation in their neighborhood, but that is the driver in his or her vehicle. Again, we believe it's a male. It's a four-door sedan here, being pursued and trying to do whatever they can to get away. And we're not seeing a lot of units on the ground, and and not seeing the night sun as we had earlier. And when I say that, that means the helicopter and that light that beams on this vehicle.
It seems like the news media is a lot more interested in this guy than law enforcement, because we don't see that law enforcement helicopter. We don't see lights on him. When he was just literally standing in the street, there was nobody there to arrest him. Seems like they're not that focused on, or don't feel an urgent need to get this guy.
But look, it seems like, at least for now, he's backed off slightly, right? Not as erratic, not as fast. And that's the mindset of the officers, that they will say, hey, we're going to track this. We're going to get into tracking mode. We have enough information. We have enough intel. We know the license plate. We know the registration, whether or not it's connected to the individual that's being pursued or not. But they will do whatever they can to bring this to a safe conclusion. And that means, at this point, making sure that anybody, all those other vehicles, are not in harm's way, and that this driver, this individual that's being pursued, slows down. And that's what we're seeing right now.
17, 20 miles an hour. This is the slowest we've seen this pursuit. You know, for police, it's the holidays. You don't want anybody to get killed in this situation here. So if backing off allows this driver to slow down to some normal speeds on these streets, perhaps the driver will become a little more rational and give up at some point.
That's the hope. That's the hope, and that is the way that these officers work, to back off and show that, hey, we're not behind you. Slow down. It's all good. We're going to get you. But right now, we just want you to ease your mind and pull over and bring this to a safe conclusion and not hurt anybody innocent out there, especially during this holiday season. Especially
if they know who the driver is by the license plate of the car. We haven't heard of this being a stolen car. We don't know the want on this. Police may know who this driver is. They may know the backstory behind this pursuit in the first place.
Well, he did pull over and get out of the car, and then there was nobody there. And then he got back in the car and kept driving.
And why that happened at that location, we don't know. I kept saying that, hey, typically, you know, these guys or gals will go to a location that they may be familiar with, and that's possible here. But bottom line, that this individual who is being pursued has backed off in terms of speed, right?
You know, there were other cars stopped in that same area where that driver stopped. So who knows if that driver was connecting with someone, speaking with someone in an area that they know?
Or if there's anybody else in the vehicle.
We don't
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
it's one driver or if there are
we don't
passengers
know
in
that.
there too.
And that was the question last night when we had our pursuit. And you could see, okay, you can see the
Stopped at a red
driver's
light?
side there, stopping at a
this?
red light. There's no units behind this individual at this point that we can see on Lincoln and Figueroa. This is a very busy area of Pasadena, South Pasadena in Southern California. And off, green light and going.
You
And
know,
at speed limit.
with that driver stopping at the red light and going the speed limit, makes me almost think for a second, do we have the right car here? Is this the right pursuit?
I was wondering the same thing.
I think it is. It looks like it, right? Do you guys see that vehicle? I'm pretty certain it is.
Well, we have our assignment team on it, so for now we're going with it still being the car in the pursuit. But this is the first we've seen this driver really abide by the law here.
Yeah, and this could go for a very long time if there's nobody pursuing the vehicle and there's no real urgency for them to pull over, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So since we don't really see any law enforcement actually pursuing this vehicle and they seem to be driving safely, there doesn't seem to be an imminent danger to the public on this one. We're going to continue to monitor it. If that situation changes, we will go back to it. But there is a lot of other news today that we want to get to. So we're going to move on to another story at this moment.
So let's talk about this here. The Russians.
You're just listening to Fox 11 coverage there, and that is a good time to get out of that as they were still following that police pursuit, but they're now going on to their coverage. We're also going to shift gears just a little bit here and talk about our coverage here on Live Now from Fox. And a lot of discussions this week have been about Title 42. And we're going to be joined now by Rebecca Castor, who has a little bit more detail on that U.S.